Hello and thank you for joining the first edition of Journalist Hangout. This week, I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. Today on the Hangout, Akeredolu takes over in Ondo State. APC seeks end to xenophobic attacks in South Africa. And later in the program, PDP wins final Rivers rerun. Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Femi Odere, and Lekon Shote will be hanging out with us today. So if you're ready, let's do it now. Last Friday, Rotimi Akeredolu was sworn in as the governor of Ondo State. The inauguration was colorful. It was about democracy, about healing the wound of the people, and about justice for all. That day, politics took back seats and democracy was at the front row. Politicians looked beyond their political affiliation and celebrated a man who altered the political calculations of his states. Among other things, Governor Akeredolu promised the people that the state will rise again from the dust. On his Twitter page, he said the changing the lives of the people of Ondo State is a goal he would pursue. What should Governor Akeredolu's priority in the first 100 days? Let me start from you, Jide. It was difficult. It was a tough race.
Yes.
They had election before the election, during the primary race. And the process that led to the emergence of Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, it was a very, very difficult moment and acrimonious, and the party was almost fractured. And some people had to even leave the party. Can you just tell us his first sojourn and his second sojourn? What's the difference between Akeredolu of 2012 and Akeredolu of 20 that ran the 2016 election?
Well, the Akeredolu of today is a lot more resolute. He sees himself as his own man now. I think he's been able to build bridges across Nigeria, not just within Ondo State, and you will see that so many powerful elements were determined to ensure that he won the election. So the election was not fought just by people of Ondo State. Governors from the north, from the south, from the east, you saw even the governor of Imo State, he came to Ondo State some days before the election, you know. So Akeredolu is much more experienced than he was 4 years ago. And I think that showed even in the confidence that he exuded at a time when some people were genuinely worried that he may lose again. And those who are singing that funny song that customer Dadane, you know, it was because they felt he would not win.
That is still the Akeredolu of 2012.
Yes, they felt he would not win
easily
because of the division in his party, you know, as a result of the acrimonious primaries and all. But credit to him, he put together a very good campaign, and with the support of the APC at the national level, and the fact that even elements within his party who were opposed to his emergence as a candidate did not openly campaign against him also helped. And at the end of the day, I think that the people of Ondo State were desperate to effect a change. They were already tired of the Memeko administration because especially Memeko could not pay salaries of civil servants, could not do anything about it. Many people thought that at the last minute it would pay maybe 4 months or 5 months. People were banking on that, but it didn't happen. So it's made that the choice between the candidate presented by Memeko and Aketi made that choice to be easy for the people. Because how do you expect the civil servant who has not been able to feed his family to want to give his support to a government that, in his view, has caused him to suffer so much pain. So, Akeredolu, today's Akeredolu is an improvement over the Akeredolu of 2012.
Femi,
yes.
When you look at the government of Mimiko and Governor Akeredolu, as today marks his first day in office, what are those challenges he's going to be faced with?
Yeah, I think that's a very nice question. Rather than to treat or to see Akeredolu before he became the governor, because I think that is pretty much water under the bridge by now. We should be concentrating on what potentially he can do or he would do in the next 100 days, and that's really what I'll try to assert against. Having realized that the state has really not been well run for the past 8 years by the former governor, that means that Akeredolu has got a lot of heavy liftings to do in the next 100 days. And heavy lifting in the sense that aside from the fact that he's probably going to have to worry about settling the salaries of these civil servants, you know, that's not been paid for the past 7 days.
7 months.
7 months. To me, what I think he needs to concentrate on is to begin to move, you know, people and material, you know, like you are in a war situation, so to speak, so that you have to rearrange. I expect him to rearrange the template, you know, in the next 100 days, so that he will be putting round pegs in round holes. If he doesn't do that in the next 100 days, then there could be trouble. And again, besides that, he needs to really work on the civil service. And what I mean by that is that as part of rearranging the template, if the government really wants to perform, and I believe that he's going to perform. He has said it severally that his own mission is to bring a new lease of life, you know, to the people of Ondo State, and that is all welcome. But I expect him to actually zero in on the civil service. What I mean by that is that we all know now that we're talking about corruption all over the place. The civil service, both in the federal level and the state level, to me, are the repository of corruption. So he needs to tackle that. And after paying the 7 months' salary, he needs to rearrange the entire civil service. And again, in addition to that, he will have to make a sort of a law, you know, backed by the act of the State Assembly, that if anybody is caught, you know, being in charge of the ghost payrollers, for example, those people should lose their properties, you know. So I think that should be a good start for him.
Likon, what do you make of this? Because I was telling somebody in Akure that the burden of this unpaid salary, you know what he's getting from the federal government, and it's not as large as what they used to get. And you know the IGR is very poor. And our workers are not patient people. When do you see this honeymoon, you know, people waiting till 100 days for them to get their 7-month backlog? What's the magic wand he's going to use to pay that money?
The people are going to have to wait for 100 days. Because as you have just identified, how much is he getting? But however, if he will quickly identify the fact that he needs to pay, that I will pay your salaries, your arrears, and this is my plan, to spread it over a certain period. I'd like to think that the people will take a look at that. He has the opportunities right now. This is the best time for him to do that. Before the end of this week, I expect him to come up and say, well, this is my plan for payment of salary arrears. It's very key. Don't forget that voters who voted for his opponents, if you add them up, they are more than the people who voted for him.
Yes, just like 2012.
you understand? So that tells me that it is not as if he had an overwhelming vote. He has a tough job ahead of him. He has a very, very serious job ahead of him. And if he doesn't hit the ground running, I looked at his manifesto. I'm not quite sure. I looked through, I wanted to see where he said salaries will be paid. Maybe I've not read everything, but I didn't see anything like that. However, I saw his 5-point program. It's almost like the UPN 4 cardinal point program. Beautiful, laudable, if he can run it. It's good. But that salary, he must make statements before the end of this week. Otherwise, he may lose the initiative.
See, I think he said earlier, I don't know, he said, he told me on Saturday that he was going to meet with, permanent secretaries today and get a kind of briefing. And before talking about salary, you must know what is on ground. How depleted or how buoyant.
See, let's since we are talking about this issue of salary, yes, the salary needs to be paid. But you see, we are in a society where nobody really wants to take responsibility for anything. If we really have to be very truthful about this, Akeredolu should not be constrained. It should not be held, under the fire, so to speak. His feet should not be held, to the fire that he must pay the salary in the next 100 days. Because you had a former governor who was there for the past 80 years. He should be brought into account as to what he did with these monies that he has been getting, for the past 80 years.
Okay.
So I think that's where the responsibility should start from.
Please, let me respond. Femi, the point is this. The electorate of Ondo State.
Gentlemen, let's do this. Let's quickly take this break. Okay. When we come back, we'll still talking about Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu. Stay with us. Okay, Julie, I want us to, before we zero down more on Rotimi Akeredolu now, I want us to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly side of Governor Mimiko. Because going around Ondo State, I saw some remarkable projects, notable things. Even Governor Akeredolu said, admitted that much, yes, that he performed well.
No, you cannot hate Mimiko so much as not to admit that he did some good work in that state. And it is in the best interest of the incoming governor to sustain some of those good things. For example, the mother and child hospital, for example, they do not pay. At all. CS in Lagos, you could pay as much as 200,000 for cesarean section. So in fact, many lives had been lost because people would not be able to raise the money. In some states, it's about 150. In Ondo State, they don't pay. In fact, the situation was such that from neighboring states, some people are going to enroll for antenatal, yes, so that when project, it is delivery time, yes, they will take advantage of it. That's one good thing. Of course, Mimiko is a medical doctor, so naturally, he was interested in doing something along that line. Then we have the bus shuttle
school, yes, I saw
project.
Like a BRT bus. And
it runs in 8 local governments of the state. Children are taken to school free of charge. It's very, very costly because you must buy diesel to keep those buses running. When I went to Ondo in January, I saw those buses. Now, the incoming administration must also sustain that. Because these are things that these are good things that the people had been used to. You see, in trying to find money for critical things that he will want to change about the state, he will want to look at some of these things. But the reality is, if he decides to stop some of those projects, some of those laudable schemes that Mimiko introduced, like the mother and child, or like even the bus shuttle thing, definitely people's blood will boil. So, and roads, is done well with roads. Though at the last minute he started just commissioning road projects that were not completed without street lights and all that, and people got angry. But you cannot fault the fact that he did well with roads, especially even in the riverine areas.
Yes.
Where there were no roads.
Yes.
He went there and gave them roads. We saw it during the election.
Yes.
Now, the governor, the good thing, when an outgoing governor does well in critical areas, it means that the incoming governor will now have to look at new areas that he left untouched. Which is what Ambode is doing. You can see that bridges, overhead bridges are springing up in areas that we didn't have them in Lagos. A place that where we needed them, but we didn't have them. So no matter how good an administration is, there will be some areas where things had been left undone. And these are the areas that I figure that Arakuni will focus on. He's already said that he wants to concentrate on agriculture, get the people working, give direct employment to young people by engaging them in agriculture. I think this is laudable, because when you look at our farming, the average age of the Nigerian farmer is about 60 plus. So, which means that the farming population is aging. So, if Akeredolu would engage young people in Ondo State and get them to go back to the farm, I think that it will go a long way. And I also want to see him do something like Sunshine Stars. Is the pride of the state.
They've been
but
the
governor is owing them 6 months. I mean, owing them 6 months salary.
They kept protesting in front of his office throughout.
It's an embarrassment. So I figure that the new governor will be able to do something along this line. He has his work. He has his work cut out for him.
Looking at, in terms of what he wants to do, he said he was going to run. He's going to run a lean cabinet. And looking at the structure, because I actually asked him that, was he going to do the Mimiko thing in terms of cabinet sharing, political exigency and everything? He said because of recession, and that it's going to be reduce the number of appointees, and he will also take into consideration what is politically correct.
Are you asking me whether or not that's the right thing for him to do?
Yes. The kind of cabinet he should run, like setting agenda for him.
Well, there's no question as to the fact that bloating, the government bureaucracy is no longer the in thing anymore. It's no longer fashionable. It has never been a good thing to begin with anyway. But because there is lack of jobs, this private sector is so, prostrate, to say the least. Governments are absorbing people that they necessarily shouldn't have absorbed, in the labor market, because of this free money, the oil money that keeps coming in and all of that. But
because
now
I was told that former Governor Mimiko did some employment.
But now that the allocation has dwindled considerably, the governor, or any governor for that matter, doesn't really have any other choice than to scale down considerably its people, just like we're witnessing in Oshun. For since now, up
but
to
is
this
that
moment,
normal?
A drastic problem, as they say, needs a very drastic solution.
Okay, let me take. Ayo is calling us from Lagos. Thank you for joining us, Ayo.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Sorry, there's one thing I think I want to draw your attention to.
All right.
Going to wash his temper. Because if he does not wash his temper, it's good to create political crisis for himself. So if you are not stable politically, you can't move forward economically. So some of his statements, he needs.
All right, Ayo, thanks for that word of advice there. I think, Ayo, you want to react to what Ayo said, Jide?
I think
he was talking about temper.
His temper.
He's very
his temper.
Yes.
He doesn't know how to hide things.
He's not a politician. He's not
So, but I think that in the coming days, they will work on him.
Yes.
They will work on him about a lot of things. So, because really, as he said, I read one story where he was actually threatening one of the sitting senators that he will have to go and register to get back into APC, that they didn't support him, he supported AD, and that rather than call him after he won the election, he placed an advert in the newspaper, knowing that he didn't support him. God has given you victory. And the people who wanted you disgraced, they've been made to eat humble pie. Why not just try to bring everybody together? Just as
Ayo said.
Lekon said, there are so many people who did not want him to win. When you tally the votes again, you see that the other candidates, their votes put together was higher than his own. So he should know right now that he has to become the father of all, bring everyone together. He needs those people, even in his party, the elements who hate him in his party, he needs them. Bring everybody together and let's move the state forward. That should be his watchword.
Legon.
Well, Mr. You say the people of Ondo State did not vote for PDP through Mimiko. They voted for Mimiko, who was a candidate of Labour Party.
Yes.
It was later that he changed. That is, it was like a contract between Governor Mimiko and the people of Ondo State. Now, as I said earlier on, people who voted for other candidates are more than those who voted for him. So he has a job to do to win them back to himself. And I like to think that he has a great opportunity. This recession gives him the opportunity to begin to cut costs. Concentrate on, he has to pay those salaries. He has to pay it. And then, rather than have a bloated cabinet, and then he also needs to look at ghost workers very, very, very seriously, as Femi is hinting. He needs to seriously look at it.
I don't think Mimiko has done anything significant in that area.
Exactly.
And other states are winning them out.
See, that's the area I really want to contribute. When you guys are saying something about Mimiko's contribution, I mean Mimiko's performance and all of that. You see, I happen to come from the state, and I frequent there, and I know, and I've talked to so many people, both the average Joe Blow in the street and all of that. See, there's something we call spectacle projects. Mimiko is so adept in establishing spectacle projects. Spectacle in the sense that you build a market, for instance, in the middle of nowhere. Of course, anybody that sees a nice-looking market is more likely to applaud. But one thing, though, one credit I'll give to him, just like Otoju said, is the mother and child, the caring heart. But then, if you look at what was expended in the creation, in the establishment of this mother and child, in comparison with the incoming, the income that came in during that 8 years, you know that he has really not done a great deal. When we're talking about roads, the roads that you guys are talking about was pretty much like another spectacle project.
But the incoming governor has been praising him about that.
See, it's a matter of opinion. The
governor may
praise him. The governor may praise him. That's fine.
In fact, he said as much as that he doesn't want to step into his shoes because he has done so much that. But
he won't even find the kind of money.
Let us also understand something. The governor may be trying to be politically correct.
But the fact is that he did some work.
He did some work,
especially during his first term.
We're not saying that he did no work, but we're saying that in comparison with what
there are some
revenue that came in 8 years ago,
that will be difficult to run them. That's what Femi is trying to say.
But there are roads. There are roads that we can point to.
I understand. Yeah,
all governors do this. Projects that are meaningless, they go and waste money on them. They are all guilty of that. So it's not even Mimiko alone that is guilty. But we know communities that didn't have roads. In fact, when Ayo went to cover the election in the River Line, he called me because he had been to those places
kilometers,
before.
Yes.
So let's not. It is not even. I think. I think the issue is
what you guys don't know.
We shouldn't focus on Mimiko because Mimiko is history.
Yeah, that's
Mimiko
true.
is history.
But we still have to get
How we can help this man, the new man, to succeed is what we should focus on.
Those roads were started by Agagu's government. That's the fact.
But it was ultimately completed by somebody. But gentlemen, but we have to actually move on now, and we wish Governor Oluwa Rotimi Akeredolu the best of luck, and come 100 days, we'll come and evaluate what he has put in place in his first 100 day. Still ahead on Journalist Hangout, APC 6 to end xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Details after this break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Nigerians in South Africa are understandably afraid. They are scared to end their marrows because their South African neighbors have declared war against them and are willing to kill them. Their offense is that they are successful and they are perceived to have taken jobs that South Africans could have taken. Sadly, the country that gave them the permission to live freely and legally turns a blind eye when security is most needed. Now, in the past years, Nigerians in South Africa have endured the destruction of their belongings and helplessly watched fellow countrymen molested or even lynched by some misguided South Africans. The situation is scary. To end the senseless xenophobic attacks, the South African branch of the All Progressive Congress has urged the federal government to demand an apology from South Africa authorities and seek compensation for victims. But what has Nigeria done so far to protect its citizens abroad? Will anything change this time around? Babajide, looking at this situation, it's in the last 2 years, it has been degenerating our relationship with that country, South Africa. But let me quickly give our viewers a kind of insight into what I'm talking about. I'll be right back.
Hope Apokweze is one of the few who dared open his store on Monday. Most shops here are shuttered following a night of violence, and the 28-year-old expects more trouble.
It's terrible. You live in fear of the cops, you live in fear of the citizens of South Africa because they come here and just evaluate everything you have and just assume you've stolen their own money to build up. But when we come here, we start from scratch to this level. But they don't see it like that. They just come and start making troubles with you like you're running a company like this without even knowing how you started.
Jeppystown is a rundown suburb in Johannesburg's east, home to thousands of poor locals and foreign nationals, hundreds of Nigerians too, and they were the main target of Sunday's looting. Apokweze's security gates saved his business, but others were not so fortunate. Some South Africans claim foreign nationals are taking their jobs, or selling their women, or poisoning their youth with drugs, and that's provoked several attacks in recent days, mainly in the capital Pretoria. But Apokweze believes there's another reason for the violence.
They really don't have a genuine reason. The only thing they base on is that we are dealing on drugs. You can't come after those people. You can't come here and tell them I'm doing dealing drugs.
You go after them.
They know places where they are dealing drugs.
Exactly.
So
you go
the
after
reason
them.
that what's most annoying is you come to my shop, you see obvious I'm doing spare parts. Now you're fighting in the name of fighting people doing drugs. But when you really see some of them that want to tell you the truth, they just tell you, like I have a friend who is a South African, what he told me they are fighting for is how can you come to our country and make so much money while we are suffering? How does that come to me?
The United Nations says more than 30,000 Nigerians live in South Africa.
I think this thing has to stop, you understand? We are coming from somewhere. We have a home, you understand? We are not bastards. We have a home. I have a mother. I have a father. You understand? I'm coming from somewhere. I have brothers and sisters like them, you understand? So when they want to do something, they know that the same blood that is flowing in them is flowing in me as well. Yes. I'm a human being.
Apokweze had to shut his shop early. There'll be no business for him today, but on days like these, it's better to be safe than to chase a profit. Valdi Carlson, TVC News, Johannesburg.
Oh, gentlemen, How did you get this? Things got this bad. Let me start from you, Lekon.
Well, there have been allegations that Nigerians do drugs, run brothels, even engage in human trafficking and maybe some other petty crimes. My take on this is, if this is true, hand them over to the police. That's the civilized thing to do, not mob action against them. But I have lived in a country where Nigerians were thriving more than blacks in that environment. They feel that, oh, these foreign students come and take our girls. And they are always well-dressed in nice cars and all that, and then their girls follow you. And then it becomes an issue. I've had some of my friends beaten with baseball bats simply because they were always going out with some of these girls. What I'm trying to say is that there is a measure of envy or jealousy in this issue. Now, my question is this. When the High Commissioner, the South African High Commissioner, released a statement and he started saying that, after all, maybe I won't mention companies, South African companies in Nigeria, that they have Nigerian partners, they have Nigerian directors. Why is Nigerian companies in South Africa don't have South African partners, South African directors? Will this gentleman who is running a spare parts shop have shareholders, or will he have, this is a one-man business. We are not talking about blue chip companies here.
So
as far as I'm concerned, even the High Commissioner is telling me from that statement, if it is indeed true, that the government of South Africa is for this. Now, I want to ask a question. We have what we call the Africa Union. It has a 6-point program. The 5th ladder on this is the Africa Common Market. From the beginning, it says there must be easy migration between African states. That you can even settle, not just resident, but settle, establish yourself in another African country. The 1991 Abuja Declaration says that. I expect the Minister for External Affairs to start to address that. I expect the High Commissioner, the South African High Commissioner, to begin to address that. Nobody is addressing that. It says that ultimately, Africa is going to have an Africa common market, like you have in Europe. Where do we start from if we don't start from this migratory? It even says that when you say you have Schengen visa, what it means is that even these borders that you see will not matter, such that people and goods can move freely in these 26 countries in Europe. That is the ultimate thing that we are talking about in Africa Union, when you finally have the Africa Market Union. So I like to think that the action of South Africans and this, even though the President of South Africa has spoken, I am not impressed by what he has said. I'm not convinced at all. I think the federal government of Nigeria needs to take them up on this Africa Union Charter.
Femi,
yes,
it's now black against black.
Yes.
It's not a black and white thing.
Yes.
And what would you think a black man can rise up against a fellow black man just because of petty things like they are making it, you know, if they are lazy, the Nigerians, you know, they are very, very resourceful, they are very industrious, especially my brothers from the southeast. Anywhere they go, they'll start their business, as no matter how small it is, they will grow that business to an enviable stage. So why do you think South Africa youth will be taking us?
Let me begin by addressing this issue from the second to the last statement on the intro about the South African situation. That what you are saying, that what has Nigeria done to protect its citizens abroad? You see, it is the onus really is not on the Nigerian government to protect its citizens abroad. The onus is on the South African government to protect the foreigners living in its territory, just as the onus is on the Nigerian government to make sure that the Nigerians and foreigners that are living within the territory of Nigeria are protected. That's number one. The other thing is that, you see, if we have had a government over the years that are, if we have had governments over the years that are responsive and responsible to its people, we shouldn't really be talking about this situation by now. You know, in the where almost at least 116 Nigerians have been killed for the past 2 years. This is the kind of situations where countries break diplomatic relations, you know, with each other because their citizens are not being protected. You know, we've had a situation whereby Nigerians, Nigerian government for the most part have been so lackadaisical and nonchalant about the citizen, not only within the country of Nigeria, but outside. And that, to me, is one of the reasons why these people, not, let's say we're talking about South Africa now, they have this impunity, the sense of impunity that they can do whatever they want. After all, their government is not going to do anything anyway, you know, to share. But I think that needs to start changing. And that is gradually being changed. And I'm surprised that even the Minister for Foreign Affairs is even sleeping at the switch. The only person that is talking vigorously and vehemently about this issue is Honorable Abike Dabiri, you know, who has a lesser office than him, than the minister. Yes. And the woman is being pilloried, you know, by the Home Minister in South Africa. This Maguta Gamba or whatever his name is. You know, to me, when you even read that statement, it was so condescending that you know, Abekere should not be talking about involving the AU and all. Why not? You know, Nigerians have been killed for fun. Why not? You know, he's saying that, you know, it should be settled at the diplomatic level. The diplomatic level, how? You know, so to me, a diplomat. So to me, it is beginning to emerge now that this is probably the first time that the Nigerian government is beginning to take a very strong stance against its people being maltreated. And I think it should not even stop at that. You know, rather than Nigerians to be demonstrating and, you know, destroying South African properties, you can imagine if Nigerians decide to boycott, let's just take, for instance, MTN, for example, you know, to stop buying a recharge card for a whole day.
Let me quickly take this break. When we come back, we're still on the South Africa's xenophobic attack. Stay with us. It's still journalist Hangout, and we're looking at the xenophobic attack in South Africa. Jide, looking at the role of the South African government in all this, I don't think they've condemned it. I don't think they've been very, very firm in taking a position. But if their responsibility is to take care of Nigerians there,
I don't think the South African government has done well. I think that more serious groups will have responded appropriately. I don't see their response as being appropriate. It is their responsibility to protect Nigerians who are in that country and other Africans, but they've not done that. I sympathize with the South Africans who think that violence is the appropriate response to lack of jobs. They are jobless and they think that the Nigerians and other Africans are to blame. But it shows that they are not thinking people.
They are lazy.
There are 2.3 million immigrants in South Africa. Out of this figure, only 1.6 are Africans. We have Bangladeshi, Indians, Chinese, you know. Just 1.6 of 2.3 million are Africans. And these Africans, these Nigerians that we are talking about, some of them have vending businesses, services and all that, and they employ even South Africans.
Honestly.
What do they do not account for up to 1% of the economy of South Africa. White people in South Africa constitute only 8.7% of the population of South Africa. But 85% of the economy of South Africa is in their hands. The wealth of South Africa is in their hands. So what we have is a case of misplaced anger. You are going, the blacks in South Africa, including Nigerians, they don't own mines. They don't own blue chip companies. They are just vendors. They own small businesses. These are the people that you are going after. You are not going after those who are controlling 85% of the wealth of your country. Those who do not own the mines, they don't have land. They don't own lands. They are the people that you are going after. It's a terrible thing, and it shows that the people behind this are really not thinking. When Nigerians look back, they will remember that our country invested so much resources to fight for the freedom of South Africa, to fight for the defeat of apartheid. Yeah. But you can see the way they are repaying us. The former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, used to stay in Zaria. Many of their big people, the freedom fighters, they came to Nigeria. Many of their people schooled here in Nigeria at Nigeria's expense. We were paying their school fees. We were feeding South Africans. Of course, I don't blame, because in Africa, many people don't have a sense of history. And it's made worse by even the policy in our country now that history should not be subject to be taught. So many of the people killing people for fun in South Africa today were not born during the years of apartheid struggle.
Yes, in the 90s.
When people like Cyril Ramaphosa, the deputy president of South Africa, were organizing the Soweto uprising of 1976.
Even if they were not born, it is due to
they were not born
to educate
no,
them.
That's what I'm saying, that they do not even. If you don't have to be born at that time, but if you have a sense of history, at least you will read about the history of your country. That's why I blame my own people that they are saying people should not study history, because you will not know those who are your true heroes. The Nigerians that they are killing, and Nigeria as a country is a hero to South Africa. We constitute a hero. The Nigerian country constitutes a hero to South Africa. Exactly. Well, you are killing our people. The people that they should go after, the neoliberal elements in South Africa, they are not going after them. They are going after the wrong people. And you see, if you go to South Africa today, in the heart of South Africa, heart of Johannesburg, I mean, all the businesses have shut down. Those white people who own big business, you see giant buildings, there's nobody inside them. They fled. Most of them are moved to highbrow areas like Sandton, where there is security and all that. They've left the downtown Johannesburg. Because even if you are a white man, you go there, these boys will turn against them. When a country fails to do what it should do, this is the result. If you have good governance will ensure that these youths that are killing people have jobs. Will ensure that they go to school. A lot of those black people, they don't go to school. They watch white people go to school and graduate with flying colors. They don't think they should go to school, so they have nothing to do other than take to drugs and be killing innocent Nigerians. So right now, one of the tragedies of the continent is the fact that even the president of South Africa ought to be the pride of Africa, ought to be the star of Africa, but they don't have good leadership. And because of that, it's impacting on virtually everyone in their country. You can see now that there's a feeling of despondency, and they think that the solution to the fact that they can't find jobs, the solution to expanding poverty in South Africa is to be killing innocent Nigerians. It's such a shameful thing.
Thank you for joining us. I have a caller on the line.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Yes, go ahead with your contribution, Ishak.
It is obvious our government has done it or nothing to address the xenophobia attack against Nigerians in South Africa. So I think they should do more. It's not too late. They should wake up from their slumber and sanction South Africans for failure to provide adequate security for Nigerians, Nigerians and their properties, and other foreigners in South Africa. So I think if they sanction, because the only vocal voice we've had from government that have condemned this thing is Abike Dabiri. Aside from Abike Dabiri, all other government officials have been silent, simply because their relation was not affected. It is sad. I call somebody in South Africa, you can imagine the price the Nigerians are going through in South Africa. This is unfortunate. If we really have government that care about the citizens, I think the time to sanction South African government for failure to provide security for the lives of Nigerians in their country is now. I think it's not too late. The government should wake up from their slumber and
Thank you,
stand
Shaq.
South Africa.
Thank you, Shaq. Thank you for your contribution.
Finally, why are big businesses thriving here in big South African businesses thriving in Nigeria, and they don't want small Nigerian businesses to thrive in their country? Why?
That's a big question.
We
have
very-
multi-million
they are very
naira,
ignorant.
multi-million dollars,
Multi-billion naira
investment here.
And to me, that's the area we actually should be concentrating on. The idea of a reciprocal attack, may not cut it really. We should be strategic enough by making sure that the South African government does something about protecting the lives of the foreigners, the Nigerians under its territory. And if it's shirking that responsibility, then we need to step up. We need to do something on our own. If need be, we need to boycott MTN. We need to boycott the DSTV, and ShopRite and all of that. Because at the end of the day, why not? Come on now, because our people are dying, really.
I think that the last minister we had did something when they expelled some Nigerians over this yellow fever or whatever. He retaliated. He retaliated and sent back some.
It is when those things happen that the South African businesses that we have will put pressure on their own government to do something.
The same way they were running helter-skelter when MTN was fined.
Okay, let me pick Olawale. Olawale is calling us from Lagos. Thank you, Wale.
Good evening.
Good evening, Wale.
Mr. Akin also good evening. Everybody here, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
So the issue of South Africa is the participation. I don't know what that government means. As far as our people over here, we fought them. I was among those who protested during the apartheid era. And they are now with them. I don't know why. We fight for Africans. Africans are not like it. I don't know why it's like others go to Libya, the same issue. Same story. Go to only Mauritania that is not of those who are protecting Nigeria. Everywhere we go, I don't know. Our government are not up to, they are not up against all those countries.
Thank you, Wale. My time is fast spent. Thank you for your contribution. So, moving forward now, Lekon, what should we do?
What should we do? Femi has said it. We need to, Nigerians themselves, the consumers, we need to begin to boycott and make statements. And then the federal government itself, I even expect the acting president.
Not forgetting that these companies you are talking about, they've employed thousands of Nigerians.
You understand?
Are you kidding?
But they ship their profits to South Africa.
They repatriate their profits
to South Africa.
They even dodge payment of taxes.
A lot of them.
Do you understand?
Devious people.
So please, let's not. So we should rather Nigerians begin to be killed because somebody is making profit here? No, sir.
No.
You see, and the federal, I expect the acting president to actually make a formal statement, address us Nigerians concerning this issue. At least 5 minutes talking to us that Nigerians will be taken care of, will be safe in South Africa. These Nigerians, don't forget, they also repatriate money to their relatives here in Nigeria.
Yes.
So they are not just, and they are adding value to the economy of South Africa. So they are not just playing. Do you understand? So I expect the acting president himself to actually address or speak to us about this issue. This is a very, very critical, very serious issue. And then the matter should be taken up at the level of AU level.
Yes.
Julie, your final take on this?
I think that our response has been very weak. Very, very weak. If we recall what happened during the last administration, when South Africa expelled some Nigerian diplomats and other people over so-called yellow fever matter. We retaliated by sending back, by expelling some of their own people here. So that to me was proportionate response. In this case, we have not spoken strongly. We have not shown our anger appropriately. Our government must show its anger appropriately. Otherwise, people will come up with the impression that, look, the life of the Nigerian outside our shores is cheap, and that shouldn't be the case. I want to hear that the Nigerian government has engaged the South African government at the highest level on this matter, because this is something that has gone on. Remember, in 2008, there were these xenophobic attacks. Many Africans were killed. It has to stop. The barbaric behavior of or South African youth has to stop. The government must find a way to rein in this needless killing of our people.
Femi, your last take, sharp. We have.
Well, sharp is the fact that the Nigerians, just like you, like the Jide said, the Nigerian government needs to be very, proactive about this. They need to make as much as possible. They need to be strong, to be out strongly, because, as I said, killing just one Nigerian should be even
be enough to go to war. It should be enough to go to war.
So to me, the government response unfortunately has been so weak, but it is just Abikadabri that have been
even
talking.
the statement by the Nigerian High Commission in South Africa is weak.
It's weak.
Yes.
Please call this number if you have been attacked.
No.
How do you make a call when you have been attacked?
We are under siege.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you, Lekon Shota. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Femi, thank you so much. And
thank you.
As usual. And that's it on Journalist Hangout. Please join us tomorrow for another interesting episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Uzuba. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.